Lester Koch came out with a vengeance, and his first move was changing the name to the Shower Posse. Some say that it represents a shower of blessings, and others say it represents a shower of something else. Well, from the gate, Lester Koch began recruiting thousands of members. On top of this, he had the largest arsenal of choppers that Jamaica had ever seen. A former CIA whistleblower claims that the CIA was funding Lester Koch. However, this was never proven in court. But what we do know is that the Shower Posse began invading PNP neighborhoods all over Kingston. They became the most feared in Kingston as they were breaking all of the unwritten rules. Previously, you needed to target someone of essence, not just a random civilian. But Lester Koch was cold-blooded and he wanted destruction by any means. And this leads us to the 1980 election, possibly the worst time in Jamaican history. The Shower Posse made demonstrations in the worst way possible. During the 2 months before the election, 898 PNP supporters lost their lives. This resulted in major pressure for Jamaicans to vote for JLP as they feared of what could happen if they didn't. On October 30th, 1980, the election results were announced. It was the most lopsided election in Jamaican history, with the JLP winning 51 of 60 seats. Edward Sega was now the Prime Minister of Jamaica. He promised to turn them into the Singapore of the Caribbean and for them to have a booming economy. To boost the economy, the JLP printed a ton of money and lowered interest rates. In the short run, this made Jamaica prosperous and everyone was happy. But as we know, bubbles are always gonna pop. So the early 1980s became a time of hyperinflation and mass unemployment. The Jamaican dollar lost so much value that other countries would not even trade it. But while most Jamaicans were struggling, others were striking it rich. And by others, I really mean Lester Koch, so let me explain. Edward Sega ran on the premise of being hard on crime and taking all of the dealers off the street. So this is exactly what he did. He got everyone locked up except for Lester Koch. This of course allowed Lester and the Shower Posse to take over all of the markets of Kingston, Jamaica. But not only this, Lester was allowed to import anything from Colombia. Well, according to residents at the time, Lester Koch was generating so much money that he could never spend it in a lifetime. So with all this wealth, he decided to share it with those who he loved most. In just a short time, he turned the Tivoli Gardens into a high-class society. He paid for everyone's education, he gave them jobs, and he provided the best healthcare that money could buy. In a major recession where most are starving, the Tivoli Gardens were thriving like never before. This of course made the PNP sections upset, but this wasn't even the biggest problem. The other JLP sections were not getting help from Lester Koch, and one section in particular decided to take a stand. In 1984, the neighborhood of Rima decided to complain to Lester Koch. They showed him how poor their apartments were and how Tivoli can't be the only ones getting taken care of. Lester Koch took this personally because he never liked anyone questioning his decisions, but he decided to give them the benefit of the doubt and granted them an official meeting. May 2nd, 1984, Lester Koch and his Shower Posse bodyguards enter Rima for the meeting. That's when one of the Rima men begins complaining about how Lester won't do anything for them. He then tells him that if things don't change, they'll switch over to PNP. Lester makes the worst decision possible. Lester single-handedly wiped out all of the men at the table. The Rima neighborhood was devastated and they decided to switch sides to PNP. He knew that he messed up and he figured that it could all catch up to him. Crossing his own side could potentially piss off Edward Sega.